Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back, guys. We got a new submitter. Check him out. It's el-01 from clan WCTNT and his 5100 tier 8 French auto-loading heavy tank. So say hello to the new guy, everybody. Hello, el-01. We took a look at him, and he is brand new player, about 4,000 or so battles, plus or minus in there. I think this is actually his first tier 8 and his first auto-loading French heavy, is what he was saying on his note to me. He was looking for some advice on this. I took a look at this, and we're going to really go back to basics a bit here, El, because your struggles with this tank are probably not just that it's a auto loader, which does require some specific techniques and gameplay, but more of an overall overarching look at the game for you, talking about very basic stuff like positioning, getting your gun in the game, manufacturing your own shots, those kinds of things. Now, it's a fairly short replay, so let's not read too much into it, but there's some very basics here that I think we can talk about. And we're going to start with you today, El, by just looking at the setup of this game and what we can expect. So it's a pure tier 10 battle, tier 8 battle. Math in public, those are 8s. There is one artillery on each side, quite a few TDs. But what I'm really interested in this spawn, and this goes to analyzing the maps as well, which you're going to get with experience and can be very difficult for a new player because there are so many maps. There's 2 spawns on each one. Some of them are have encounter if you have that turned on, and assault if you have that turned on, which also changes spawns and the way the maps play as well. But we are here on Westfield in a standard battle and spawned into what is technically the southwest side, but you can see we're up on the hill, and this is one of the stranger spawns in the game because it can be split quite a bit. In general, your TDs and heavies will be up top, and your lights, mediums, and arty will be down on the bottom. That changes a little bit depending on the makeup of the team, but you happen to be up top. Like I said, there's one arty. Arty will be probably pre-focused in this brawl up here in the northwest. And the big brawl in the northwest, this is the critical terrain on this map. The southeast can be important if you win it fast and flex around or start taking guys out of the middle. However, generally that's a bit of a stalemate for a while, and the brawl up here is where the heavies and sometimes mediums and TDs, definitely TDs, are going to slug it out. And in general, that's where this map is won or lost in general. So that being said, you're on top, you're in the important position, you can get to the fight pretty easily. What do you have working for you and against you? You don't have a lot of armor, you have okay depression, good mobility, and you've got that autoloader that can send a lot of rounds down range. With an autoloader, though, you want to avoid the temptation of rushing out and trying to shoot everything into one person, because often with this many guns in the game plus arty, you take a lot of fire back, lose a lot of hit points, or simply die. Not a problem for you today, so we'll take a look how that goes. So now I'm going to assess my team and the enemy team. First thing I note is there's a ton of TDs. Where will I expect the TDs to be? Up here in the sniper nest, or for my team over here in the sniper nest, potentially down low. And for the enemy guys on this ridge, I got to get in the right map here. Enemy guys on this ridge, up here in this sniper nest, over here in my sniper nest, or along the south for my TDs. But are any of them assault TDs? We'll take a look at it. Maybe the T-28 crawls up into the brawl and starts fighting. Maybe the Ferdinand, the AT-15 is a possibility. And frankly, even the AC-48 could potentially do it. I don't really expect the Scorpion G or the Udez to come up into the hills right up here in front of me, up here. But they may very well be back in the bushes behind, or down, like I said, on the, the east edge of this hill. If I start popping up and over, I may take fire from that way. So that's the generalities. What tanks do I expect to be up here? I would expect the Carnarvon, the Emil, the T-26, the VK-100, and I would expect the Progetto and the T-44 and the 2 light tanks to be down in the south down here. However, if they show up, they could come up the hill, and some of your mediums may come up as well. All right, all that being said, I kind of have an idea of who's going to be up here and who I'm going to be fighting. What does that mean to me in a 5100? Well, I'm going to have trouble with the Carnarvon's hold down capability, meaning that it's going to be able to see how those hills up there are really nice and rolling. There's several good spots up there for a Carnarvon to go hold down, meaning he's only showing my turret or his turret to me, and I'm going to have a hard time penning the turret. The T-26E5 is almost exactly the same and plays very similarly to the Carnarvon as far as its capability on this kind of terrain, because it's got great depression also and a very good turret. The Emil, even worse, probably, than those two, because if he comes up to this ridge, he's got all kinds of gun depression. 12, I think, is another 2 degrees over those other two. So as I look at that lineup, I go, they have 3 really great ridge fighters, and we have, well, we have 1. Our Carnarvon can do this. You can to some extent, but your turret doesn't do what a T-26E5, an Emil, or a Carnarvon turret will do for those 3 guys. Your IS-3 is nice, but he's going to want to fight more in flat areas, which is going to be up on the left side here. So right off the bat, I'd go, well, I would expect a couple at least of those hold down guys to show up on this ridge. I would expect their 100 to try to get in the middle, and we'll just get this started. Try to get into that middle area, and I'll show you that when we get there, and that's more or less where he ends up going. I would watch out for the Progetto and the T-44 coming up top, because that would be a problem for us. Extra guns in the game. And I would look and watch where our guys go. So you get a little clip action with the 100. The IS-3 is going, the Carnarvon's going hold down, the Scorpion and the other TDs are running off. But one thing I would notice right off the bat, I would say to myself, I don't really like where these TDs are going. There's not many of them going up here to help us out in this brawl. They're all kind of fading back. So we're maybe more of a defensive team up here, especially considering I'm facing 3 very good hold down tanks, and I only have a couple myself. Now this was interesting. Let's talk basics on positioning and what I'm doing, and camera work is something I talk a lot about, especially with brand new players. What I mean by camera work is watch how you drone in here. I mean, I don't really know what you're looking at because nobody's going to show up there. They're all spawned over here. They're going to show up here. They're going to show up here. They're going to show up potentially on top of this hill depending how fast they are and how long it takes you to go here. When I saw you moving this way, I went, ooh, I don't like this because I know where you're going. Obviously, I watched the video, but when I was watching the first time, I said, no way is he actually trying to go over here, which is exactly what you were doing. And I would not do that with artillery. They just have too many good shots in there. Plus, the ability of the enemy to come around this little, let's go a little further, the ability of the enemy to come around here and start shooting me. And the other problem with that is when I look back, I go, ooh, there are no TDs. If I had a couple, 3 TDs up here, this position would be okay-ish, because at least those guys would have shots on somebody coming through this opening right here, trying to come around the corner and take me out. Right now I have an IS-3, which is okay, and I don't know exactly, he's kind of following you. Another strange decision because he's really out in the flat. Oh, he's using that bush. So he's trying he's trying to bush up. Okay, so he's going to get one good shot, and then he's going to be stuck out in the open as they come around, hold down. All right, so positioning-wise, I don't love this at all. I might have gone back here. It's hard to tell. Let's see if we can get a better angle of it. Yeah, let's do that. There we go. This little rolling hill right here, this edge, you can hang out down here, and you can actually see up that middle ridge, and you can see around this corner, and you can use that high ground right there as a little bit of cover. But once again, this tank is not great hold down. So just dueling somebody with your turret in this tank is probably losing proposition. And what you've done now with an autoloader is you've kind of isolated yourself. You want to try to get early shots, but you're really isolated right here, and it's going to be very difficult for you to do much other than get trapped in this spot. So we're going to watch this go for a little bit. All right, we get spotted, and now everyone and their dog knows we're here. I know at least there's an AT-15 on their ridge. It looks like there's the T-26. There's the Carnarvon. That's exactly where I would expect both of those to be, or maybe up on the ridge. Neither one of them is there right now. Let's see how this goes from here. Now, one thing you're going to deal with that's a problem with this tank is the gun elevation is relatively low. Here comes the Emil. The Ferdinand is back there as well. No surprise, so that kind of confirms what I expected. And we spend a lot of time sort of trying to position our hole and look for that shot with the gun elevation that just really isn't there. Kind of back and forth, back and forth. All right, so now let's talk about getting our gun in the game. Here's the first customer. So we've got the Emil coming around. We've got the Carnarvon AX. This is not a bad position as far as poking around that corner and getting shots off, maybe 1 or 2 at a time. Maybe bait hit a shot, potentially trade some hit points, but once the Emil is fired, come out and take another shot at him. The problem with the Emil, obviously, is it's an auto-loader, so the idea of make the Emil shoot and then pop out and put a couple shots into him doesn't really apply because he's going to shoot a couple back. What you would like to do, though, is see if you can get him and pay attention to what he's doing, see if you can get him to clip, to send his clips down range, and it looks like the IS-3 is going to be his... The IS-3 is his center of his attention. All right, there's some shots going at the IS-3. Now's the time to get forward in there and see if you can't start taking some damage from the Emil. The IS-3 is taking fire. He's taking hits. He's got both these guys' attention. And what's really strange here is I don't think either one of those really realizes you're here based on what happens later in the game here. So you don't take advantage. That was an advantage for you. That was an opportunity to get your gun in the game as they sit there and get concentrating on the IS-3, and they're absolutely hammering. And now your buddy has left because he's unable to handle the heat, and you're sort of isolated from here. So definitely a missed opportunity to come up here and get lit, and you back down. And what I want you to think about now also in this game is you need to get your gun in the game as early as possible and do as much damage during the game. Obviously, you need to pay attention and not trade hit points. You've got that part down, but you're not manufacturing your own shots, and you had huge opportunities to come in here, especially on that Emil. Once he shot all his rounds downrange, he's kind of helpless. You can go in there and start letting these guys have it, which presents another problem for an autoloader. This is why I don't think they knew you were here. Just, you got to come off that hill as soon as he comes down. You need to understand that your depression doesn't allow you to take those shots, so just rage down the hill. All right, this is where we get into the autoloader discussion, and I know that's why you sent this to me. L is averaging about 900 damage a game in his autoloader, so he definitely wants to get that up to about his hit points just to begin with. So shoot for 1,400, 1,500 damage a game there, L, in this tank. Again, that's, as I say, that's not the end-all be-all. It's not that if you do 1,400, all of a sudden you're going to be a unicum. But if you do 1,400, you're pulling your own weight, and that's going to start affecting your stats and your wins and losses for your teams. So that is the goal. Now let's get back to the autoloader thing on how do we get that more damage? How do we increase it from 900 to 1,400? And a lot of it has to do with what I just talked about: initial positioning, knowing when the shots are going to be there, creating your own shots, being a little more aggressive than you were will help out. And then from there with an autoloader, it's managing the clip. The problem here is once you shoot those three, you have a decision to make. Do I press C? And I know you know how to do that, which is good because you do it a little while later. What I see sometimes with new players is they'll shoot those three out because they don't understand you can hit C, and it will just reload your clip. It'll start the whole cycle over, but you won't lose those three shells right there. So I see people waste shells a lot because they don't understand C. So do you press C right now and start that long reload, or do you go out there and try to find targets for those three shells? Anyone paying attention just saw you shoot three shells into that guy. If you come around the corner and shoot three more, they're going to know you're on that 40-something second reload. All right, so right now you sort of have that fear factor. They're thinking, well, okay, if I come around now, I'm going to eat three shells potentially. If there's two or three of them, they may not care. If they can bait a shot and bounce one, they're really going to jump all over you. So you might right now immediately take that opportunity to hit C and reload and get your clip going again because you got a little bit of a pause. You killed that guy off. And while they're still thinking about it, wondering whether you still have three shells or not, or whether you're going to come out and take a shot, you're already ahead of the game on the reload. Okay? So we're going to kind of hang out here, and we're looking for another shot. Now we're spotted again. And we're never going to get that because we've been testing that for the last 3 minutes, and we know we don't have that elevation. You know, nothing's going to change there, L. There are some ways to come up that hill kind of right here and get that gun sorted out so you can shoot, but then you start covering up those guys with these rocks, and it's just a very difficult shot. So now we're going to come and try to figure this out. Like, all right, can I get that? Nope. I think what I would have done right now, because I do have enough friends still. The IS-3 is still alive. Those two guys are still alive, albeit the Carnarvon just barely. I probably would have come to this corner and searched for maybe another shot or two and see what's going on. At least go to the edge and not poke out and see if you can't proxy light somebody sitting right on the other side and get a little bit of SA. And it looks like you might try that, but then you don't. And what I can see here, one of the major themes for you right now is you got the uber careful thing going. Finally, you hit C. I think that was a late decision. I would have done that much earlier based on the discussion we just had there. Either one of two things. Go look for some more shots or hit C earlier is the way to go with that. Now we got the 100p moving in. All right. Now, you are not loaded. There's no real reason to pop up here and let him see you. I'd just hang out down here for a moment. You can see him doing that. That's not you spotting him. Somebody else sees him. Your IS-3 died, and that's not good at all. You're in very big danger at this point. But there's no reason to let them know that you're doing that, although I think you're about to get proxy lit by your buddy back behind you there, the T-26, without a shell. I see that people do this a lot. They're kind of poking and peeking, and they're not even reloaded. And you're risking a couple things. You're risking shots coming at you, but more importantly, you're giving them SA on where you are and what you're doing. Just go dark for a bit and hang out and they'll be wondering, all right, where'd that guy go? Obviously not very far. Why not very far? Because you've trapped yourself in a corner. As far as a position goes, I don't like this. Then you sell out to get this because you're not reloaded, and you're going to actually eat another shot. You get one on them, and boom, you take another one. That's just bad timing. That's something you're going to learn as you get better at the game. What is the relative reload time of different tanks? The T-26 is a weird heavy because it only does 240 alpha, but it has a very fast reload, more of a medium speed of a reload in that 7-8 second, maybe slightly less actually, depending on how they're set up to 6, I think. So your timing on that is going to be off. The other thing that gets people a lot on the timing is they're paying attention to that timing circle where the little dots are going down. They're waiting for it to reload so they can take a shot. Remember that although the relative size of that reload thing, depending on which reticle you're using, is the same, the speed at which those little dots fill in changes based on how long the reload is. And an autoloader has a really long reload, so you'll look at it and you'll mentally look at the distance, go, ooh, I'm just about loaded. But really, time-wise, it's really long. And I'll see people pop out waiting for their autoloader reload, and I can tell that they're going early or they're staying too long because they think that reload's about to happen. But because it's an autoloader and it has a long reload, or even if it's just, say, a big TD with a long reload, they just misassess that timing, and it's an eternal clock that we all start to develop in the game. So those two things together, I think, got you hit right there. Waiting for the reload, maybe misassessing how fast it was going to happen, and then really not paying attention to, that's a T-26E5. He's probably going to get 2 shots on me if I sit there too long, which is exactly what he got out of that. So now I have traded 2 shots for 1 when I didn't need to. Frankly, I would take the 0 shots for not trading 2 shots into me. The AT's coming, and now we're in big trouble. Artillery finally starting to pay attention. Here comes this guy. Do a nice job with the auto aim right there, and it's all over but the shouting. Once somebody comes in there and starts making you fire shells, and they start counting it, then the Scorpion takes a big chunk because you uncovered from the rocks, and he's been aggressively moving up because he knows his guys are winning up here. And then here comes the T-26E5 anyway. Even had the Scorpion not hit you, he probably would have come down here and ate your lunch. Maybe he'd have taken a shot before you died. But basically, it's all over but the shouting. Poor early positioning. I think a little bit of a misassessment on what you were fighting in there. I think I would have been further back, so I had more options to get away or run into the town. Because when I looked at this setup, I went, I think more than likely you're going to have a hard time winning this northwest fight. What you're going to try to do is attrit them as much as possible and survive, and you're probably going to have to fall back into the buildings and then potentially bring them back. And this is where we look at that initial positioning of what my team does. I have some guns back here and back here, but they're not close enough to help me up in this brawl. So I'm going to try to do a little skirmish. If they're very foolish and I'm able to start whittling them down and win, great. But if they're smart and start to push me hard, I've got to fall back into this town and over on this side, sorry, and try to bring my TD guns into the fight as they come up and over. But getting myself trapped in an autoloader in that little corner right there without any help is not a really great idea. And especially if I'm not going to be a little bit aggressive and try to get some shots downrange and take some of those hit points away from these guys, then it's not going to work. And there was no way for you to run away once you got in there, right? You had to figure there were going to be a lot of TDs up in those bushes up there. So once they light you and get close, any attempt to run across this open field right behind you right there is going to get you shot in the side. And of course, they had guys up in the top up here. It was just bad positioning all around. Good news is that you did 1646. Great example, though, of that kind of, if I just give a boilerplate, hey, do your hit points are better and you're doing fine. They were done in desperation and at the end, and there was no real initiative gained by them. It was completely reactionary with an autoloader where, I'm not going to say we're necessarily lucky, but it was good that when all those guys pushed you, you had a full clip and you were able to at least get some damage downrange on the guys that were jumping all over you. All right, there's a lot in there to unpack, and I didn't concentrate too much on the autoloader thing because really that's a small thing compared to the larger picture stuff in the game of positioning and reacting to the flow of the battle and all the little things you've got to do to get good at this game. That's why difficult technique tanks like scouts and autoloaders can compound bad gameplay because the rest of the game is so difficult anyway. Once you start to add some of the more tricky types of elements on top of it, such as autoloaders, tanks, glass cannons, things without armor, all of the kind of weird little tanks around the edges. That's why those things can be so very difficult to play, because if you don't have a solid fundamental, adding that extra level of difficulty on top of it is just going to create more and more pain. All right, there's a lot there. Looking forward to any more reviews or any more replays you want me to review or take a look at. It's a process. You're new to the game. It's going to take a while. Don't get discouraged. A couple good things in there that we noted. So you've already got some ideas on some of the basic fundamentals, but do your best to be aggressive without overcommitting. All right, I love the aggressiveness here. It was an overcommit based on the situation and the map and your team and the enemy team. All right, man, I hope that helped. Let me know down in the comments. Everybody else, thanks for coming by. I appreciate the support of the channel as always, and we will see you.